The last thing we need to do here is we need to set up the page numbering for our document. So I'm going to go get my type tool, go down in the middle of the page, and drag a type frame just like so. Then I'm going to go to the type pull-down menu, and I'm going to insert a special character. The special character is a marker that allows InDesign to make it the current page number. The keyboard shortcut for that is Command-Option-Shift-N if you're working on a Mac, Control-Alt-Shift-N if you're working on a Windows PC. And when I select that, what it's going to do is it's going to put the letter A there. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to make it times, bold, and I'm going to make this type 36 points on 36 point or flat leading. I'm then going to get my selection tool, my arrow tool, and I'm going to move that all the way up to the upper left-hand corner of the left side page. I'm going to drag this up a little bit, but I'm going to make sure that there's enough room here that there can be 2 or, if need be, 3 page numbers to be loaded to this area. We actually only have 2 pages worth in this document. It's going to be smaller than 99 pages when it's done. So I'm going to drag it across just like so. Now, I've done it once. I don't want to have to recreate this. I'm going to take my arrow cursor and put it inside the document, hold the mouse button down, and I'm going to drag it to the right, holding down the Alt key on a Windows PC or Option key if I'm working on a Mac, and then the Shift key to line that up perfectly. And with that done, I'm going to go to my paragraph and I'm going to line that up to the right. When I do so, I'll actually see that I have page numbers. In this case, it shows AA. But if I open up my Pages panel and I double click on page 1, I'll see that that turns into page 1 set at the upper right hand corner of my InDesign document. Now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to double click on that right hand page in the master page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the margin. When you're manually placing type for long documents, or short documents for that matter, it really doesn't matter so much what the size inside the margins is, because you can always place extra guides and you can custom align that. When you want to automate the layout of your InDesign document, you want to make sure that the area inside the margins is exactly the area where you want large blocks of type to appear. So I'm going to change the top margin on these pages by going to the Layout pull-down menu, Margins and Columns, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that top margin from 3/8 of an inch to 1 inch and say OK. Now it did that on the right-hand page, but it didn't do that on the left. The reason for that was because I only had one of those pages selected. If I'd have clicked on the name A Master, both the left and right-hand pages would be selected, and then I can change that rule for both of these master pages, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go to the Layout pull-down menu, I'm going to go to Margins and Columns, and I'm going to change that top margin to 1. It didn't show because on one page it's set at 3/8 of an inch, and the other one it's set on 1. Generally, when you don't see a setting there, it means that there are multiple options available. When I say OK, that margin will be set correctly at 1 inch for the top of our page, beneath our folio, as we're working with the pages for our total training catalog. I'm going to double click on page 1. Sure enough, I'll see that it's set just like that so. And the reason that I've got that frame set will be evident when we start putting actual text inside of this section of our total training catalog that we're building. Now, I want to build some type styles in here. I'm going to start with the Paragraph Styles button over here in the side dock. I'm going to click on that new style and double click on it so I change the name from Paragraph Style 1 down to Body Copy. I want that type based on no paragraph style. That's fine. The next style I want to be the same style. Let's go to the basic character formats. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this font to make it Times. If you don't have Times, you can use Times New Roman. I'm going to change the type size down from 12 points to 10. I'm going to change the leading from that auto leading of 12 points down to 11. And then I'm going to go to the Advanced Character Formats panel right here. I'm not going to change anything here. I'm going to go to indents and spacing. It'll show my default settings here as well. I got the alignment set to the left. That's perfectly fine. But what I want to do is I want to select this Ignore Optical Margin checkbox. That allows me to create hanging punctuation, so exclamation points and question marks or quotation marks actually hang a little bit outside of the text frame when they're at the very edges of the column, and it lets my type line up more evenly. So with that set, let's go back to the general layout in our paragraph style options. I want to make sure the type is set at 10 point on 11 point leading, and that the Ignore Optical Margin checkbox was selected. If your style settings look just like mine, we're going to click the OK button, and we'll have created our first paragraph style. Now we're going to build some variations on this theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Character Styles button in the side dock, and I'm going to create a new set of character styles for bold and for italic. There's my first new style. I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to go name that Body Copy Bold. Now you'll see it's based on none because we don't have any character styles built yet. I'm going to go to the basic character formats, and I'm going to make that times. Now we've already used that, and InDesign by default remembers the fonts that we've used recently, so that's right at the top. I'm going to change the font style from regular to bold, and I'm going to make the size 10 points on 11 point leading. And when I do that, it'll create my Body Copy Bold character style. I'm going to click on the new character style button one more time, double click on that, and name this Body Copy Ital for Body Copy Italic. Going to go to that basic character formats, and I'm going to change that from bold to italic and say OK. Now I'll have two character styles created, Body Copy Bold and Body Copy Italic. This is important. Whenever you create character styles, what you want to do is before you leave that panel, make sure that none is selected. Otherwise, what's going to happen is when you're formatting text, it's going to work inconsistently, and it will take you forever to figure out why you're not getting the fonts and styles that you're asking for until you come to the Character Styles panel and fix this. Let's go back to Paragraph Styles. We're going to create one more of them. And what this is going to be is it's going to be a header style. So I'm going to create a new style, double click on it, and in this case I'm going to name it Header. I want this based on no paragraph style. I'm going to go to the basic character formats. I'm going to take that and I'm going to change that from times all the way up to Arial. If you've got a lot of fonts like I do here, it'll take a second to get there. So I'm going to make that Arial. I'm going to make it bold italic. I'm going to make it 14 points on 14 point leading or flat leading. Now, because this is going to be a headline or a header, I'm going to pack it just a little bit tighter than I would like. I'm going to change this tracking from 0 to -5. And when I do that, it's going to change the space between those letters 0.5 or 1%, or just a little bit to bring that in, ever so slightly, to give me a bolder header. I'm next going to go to indents and spacing, and I'm going to change the alignment from left to center. So the header style will now be centered on my page. I'm going to go to the keep options. Now, if you've been following along with our InDesign course sequentially, you'll know that this gives me the ability to keep a paragraph with the next few lines or the previous lines, or keep all the lines together in a paragraph, or a certain number at the start or the end. The one thing we didn't talk about describing this earlier is where we can start that paragraph. And I'm going to change that to the next page, which means anything that has the header paragraph style will automatically be placed on the next page of our document. I'm then going to go to hyphenation because I don't want hyphens in display type or headlines. I'm going to turn that option off. And when I do that, we'll have it set So no hyphens will be put in any of our header paragraphs unless we manually enter them. Let's go back to the general layout. And if your header style looks like mine, we're ready to create our InDesign template for the Total Training Catalog. The header style should be Arial, bold italic. 14 points on 14-point leading. The tracking should be set for -5 to pack it together just a little bit. The alignment should be centered. There should be no hyphenation. That's what the minus hyphenation means. The plus means that whenever I use this style, it will bump it to the next page automatically. And plus I have that ignore optical margin, just like I'd set for the body copy, that lets me put hanging punctuation outside of whatever my column width is set to be. When I say OK, we'll have two paragraph styles, body copy and header, as well as two variations of character styles for that body copy, one that's bold and one that's italic. We want to once again make sure that none is the option that's selected for those character styles. I'm going to switch back to paragraph styles. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Save. The keyboard shortcut for that is Command S on the Mac, Control S if you're working on a Windows PC. And what we're going to do is we're going to name this file your first name, so in my case Randy, and the number 7. And we're going to format this as an InDesign CS6 template, which means it'll actually be named randy7.indt, which we'll see in just a second. So put your name in there, make the format an InDesign CS6 template, save it. As it shows that INDT is a confirmation in the top of my document window. We're ready to close this and then start with the next unit of our InDesign CS6 course.